A long time ago, there lived a Chinese farmer. The man was old, his wife had passed away some time ago, and he was only able to work the farm due to the help provided by his only son. One evening, they lost their horse. It ran away, and all the neighbours came round and said, "Oh, that's too bad." To which he replied, "Maybe." The next morning, though, the horse returned, bringing with it 7 wild horses, and all of the farmer's neighbours rejoiced at his good fortune. They said, "Congratulations, you'll work the farm easier with 3 horses, and then you can sell the rest. That's great." And he said, "Maybe." The day after, the farmer's son, who was attempting to tame one of the wild horses, was thrown off and broke his leg. As you can imagine, the neighbours also had an opinion on this matter. They said, "Oh no, if your son can no longer help you tend the farm, you'll surely starve. This is terrible." And once again, the farmer said, "Maybe." The next day, conscription officers from the Chinese army came round looking for young and healthy men to fight on the front lines, but they had to reject the farmer's son because of his broken leg. And all the neighbours cried out, "Isn't that wonderful? If your son had been forced to go to war, he would have surely died on the front lines. What incredible fortune!" And this time, the farmer said, "Maybe." As human beings, we judge things. In fact, we judge things a lot. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it's likely one of the many reasons we've become the dominant species on this planet. It's our brain's job to keep us alive, and whether we realize it or not, our brains are constantly making judgments in the name of self-preservation. We judge fires and wild predatory animals to be dangerous so that we keep our distance. We judge foods to be safe to eat and places safe to take shelter so that we may rest and recover in the absence of threat. And even in social scenarios, we're always observing and judging social cues on the faces of others so that we do not offend them or embarrass ourselves and risk ostracization from the group. But the problem arises with this sort of constant analysis when we aren't dealing with life or death scenarios. This feature is extremely difficult to turn off, and it's kind of like an ancient idea not being completely suited to our modern world. Yes, it is in our nature to judge things to be good or bad so that we can act accordingly, but here's the thing, we are not omnipotent beings, and as such we are not intelligent enough to truly know whether something that happens to us will play out to be wholly good or wholly bad. Realistically, most things will be neither. In the case of the farmer, it's plain to see how easy it would be for him to despair at his son breaking his leg, but if it wasn't for that leg break, his son would have likely died on the front lines instead. And by going against his instincts and refusing to make a knee-jerk reaction and judge their situation to be hopeless, the wise old Chinese farmer saved himself a lot of pain and anxiety by just submitting himself to fate and waiting to see how things would play out. Life itself is a miracle, but to be honest, it's also an intricate and complex mess. The only certainty in our lives is uncertainty, and so rather than living in the moment and taking life as it comes, we get too bogged down on assessing and worrying over things that will often either never happen or end up playing out alright in the end anyway, often enduring pain that is purely imaginary and very often unnecessary. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said that the ironic tragedy is that life has to be lived forward, but only makes sense in reverse. A man may be successful in applying for his dream job, rejoicing to the heavens for doing so, and then be killed in a car accident on the commute to his first day. Or a woman may be cheated on and have her heart broken, but without that grief she would never have moved on to meet the man of her dreams. Just because something feels good or bad in the moment does not mean that it will be a net positive or negative in your life. So often, it's only far in the future, when all is said and done, that we can look back and know what something really was. The story of the Chinese farmer may be a simple one, but the wisdom contained within it is nothing short of profound. It teaches us to breathe and suspend judgment. It's a parable that reminds us of the importance of staying grounded in reality rather than being swept away by our own fear or our hubris. Granted, this is a lot easier said than done. For me, it's a lot more difficult to put into practice, but most things worth doing are often difficult. And even still, it's good to know that even in terrible times, usually things will work out alright in the end. Maybe.